Welcome back. You're watching Editor's Roundtable. Now, generative AI is the vogue. Generative AI is everywhere. In fact, very recently, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella said the AI wave could be as big as the internet. So we thought it would be constructive to find out what global and Indian IT companies are doing when it comes to generative AI. So the first takeaway is that all IT companies are all in when it comes to AI. And companies have announced some big investment plans. So you've got Accenture with $3 billion, Capgemini, 2 billion euros, Cognizant and Wipro at $1 billion each. Now, zooming in on Accenture with a $3 billion investment in AI and data over the next 3 years, the CEO of Accenture said no previous technology wave has captured the attention of leaders and the general public as fast as generative AI. We're now embarking on an age of AI, and companies will need to reinvent how they operate with AI at the core. And it's also early. Think of it as cloud over a decade ago. In fact, Accenture is the only IT company which has said that they've already generated sales worth $100 million by selling generative AI, and they're doubling down on their workforce by training workforce to make sure that they can give the right prompts and commands. Now, moving on to Capgemini. This is the French IT services giant. They have announced an investment of 2 billion euros, remember, in generative AI. And what they said in the earnings call is that they're working on hundreds of projects. They're right now very small, but they're scaling up at a very rapid pace. And Cognizant has announced a $1 billion investment over 3 years. But remember, all these investments largely include, they're also considering the training costs associated with their workforce. Now, let's get closer back home. TCS's, K. Krithivasan took charge on 1st of June, and he said that every time I met my clients, they were all asking about generative AI. The conversation about generative AI unfailingly comes up. So here's what TCS has said on generative AI. They're currently engaged in 50 pilot projects. They want to, but in the pipeline is 100. Their current workforce, which is trained in generative AI, is 50,000, but they want to scale up close to 100,000 trained associates in generative AI. Infosys has said that they're working on 80 projects right now for clients. They've trained 40,000 employees. HCL Tech has 140 external and internal projects at various stages of maturity. And Wipro, as we told you, has announced investment plans of $1 billion. Now, quickly to tell you what kind of pilot projects are working on. The most simplistic use case, which everyone's working on, is making sure your chatbot is more contextualized. Now, every time you use a chatbot, they give you very standard responses. But if you use generative AI, you can get very contextualized information to give precise and accurate responses. So companies are, ensuring that all the chatbots across various industries are, providing those contextualized information, whether it's in MNC banks, in healthcare, going through a lot of data. Now, the question associated with, Gen AI right now is how much of this is former. Everyone's dipped their toes in, but can it really be a future revenue generator in the near term, or at least in the next, 24 months? Now, here's what Goldman Sachs had to say in the report on the 22nd of August. They believe that generative AI can add $50 to $100 billion of incremental revenue to Indian IT by FY25 onwards. On margins, they're saying initially it will be margin positive because IT companies will use Gen AI to boost their own internal productivity. But these benefits will be passed on due to competitive pressures. So eventually, they do not see any margin benefit on account of generative AI. Mihir, I know this is, generative AI. We've spoken about it in the past. It's a space that you're tracking very closely. You believe it's going to have a transformational impact over the longer term. But the question is, do we start pricing in any kind of benefits when it comes to the Indian IT companies right now?
Probably it's too early. The clients as well as the IT services companies are in the learning phase, I would say. So they are training their staff. They are trying to understand what all can be done, by using generative AI. So I think the Goldman Sachs report that you quoted makes sense, in the sense there might be an initial bit of a blip up, a positive blip. But beyond that, the efficiencies that generative AI will bring in the coding, the core coding business that IT services companies may get impacted in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, they're likely to affect jobs, at least at the lower end when it comes to IT employees. But thank you very much, Mihir, for joining in. Guys, enjoy your weekend as well.
You too.
It's a wrap on this edition then of Editor's Roundtable. Thank you very much.